Hello, this is Edith Espinola, the productivity coach for KW Bay Area Estates, and today is our shift mastermind focusing on strategic tactic number 9, create urgency, overcoming buyer reluctance. And I am so excited today that as our guest panelist, I have Tom Yore. Tom has been in business for over 30 years. He is in the top 1% of agents in all of Santa Clara Valley. And he is also a member of our leadership team. And I'm really excited about you bringing your wisdom. I know that you've been through many shifts before, so looking forward to hearing more about that. Saundra Leonard is also a 30-year veteran in the world of real estate. She has done residential, commercial, and has been a top award-winning agent. And she brings with her to Keller Williams a great vast knowledge and experience that she is so kind to share with us. I also have Terese Ferrara, and Terese is a member of the, is it still the Goss Real Estate Group? Okay, and Terese is a partner in the Goss Real Estate Group. She has worked her way up the ranks. She is now a top producer. She's an ALC member in charge of culture. And if you haven't signed up for the blood drive yet, please do so. And Terese has been, she was a teacher, so she brings that kind of education and experience to the success that she has with her agents. And then I also have with us Suzanna Martinez. And Suzanna, I had first met her when she was our director of first impressions, when we were still back in the little office on Main Street. And she had left and she had come back. And with her now, she is a very active agent. She brings with her experience in marketing and finance and working with investors, and you can see how she brings all of that knowledge to her success in her real estate business. So thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm really excited. The Shift series is really interesting. It's helping us to go through the real estate market of the moment and to adjust what we need to adjust while we're in this shelter in place. Now, I know that the Shift book was written during a shift, and that's why it's so good for us to read. Hi, Saundra. And that's why it's so good for us to read and to participate in these masterminds. So, you know, I found that all of the tactics are actually everything that we need to do in real estate, period. And now we have a twist on how to handle it during the shift. So, Tom, let's start with you. So what is it that you have really, what is it that, how are you looking right now at helping your buyers to overcome their reluctance?
Well, I'll go back. I've been through several shifts. This is kind of a unique one as far as shelter in place, and it's a shift that's actually hitting almost every economic factor out there in the marketplace, right? From, anything. I always see buyers seeing this as an opportunity to buy, and their biggest focus is price. They always want the price to be as low as possible, which is normal. During these shifts, this one here, I'm not going to say it's as severe as the financial crisis where you guys were in that. You couldn't get financing, you couldn't get anything, right? So the real estate market really did take a hit and slowed down quite a bit. That's not the case today. There's finances going down, there's deals going down, but you still have the buyer mentality of thinking that I need to get this 20% under what market was, or 10%, whatever their number is. I think a way of reminding buyers and why we're in this market, if they're looking for it as an investment property, it's a total different game. I'm going to focus in on somebody that's looking to buy a house to live, right? Not somebody that's looking for an investment property or spec in a house. And you got to remind the people that no matter how good you are, you could never guess the market at the bottom and get the house that you want before the market starts to take off in this valley. And I've watched it at least 4 or 5 times over the years. And what I mean by that is right now the market is kind of slowing down a little bit. Sales are slowing down. I'm anticipating prices are probably going to soften. But if you're sitting on the sidelines and you're waiting for the price to hit bottom, and then at that point in time, once you feel it's bottom, or the market tells you it's bottom, i.e. agents, news, whatever the facility that's going to happen, the market's going to take off in this valley. And, you know, buyers forget that this isn't an investment. It's a house that you want to buy and a house you want to live in, and it's a neighborhood that you want to live in. And if you can guess the bottom of the market and find that perfect house that you want to be in, the neighborhood you want to be in, the school district, whatever it is you want to be in, you win. But most buyers can't. Okay, most buyers are going to say, hey, the market's changing. The media is going to catch on. It's going to go out there viral. The buyers are going to jump back in like we saw in 2017, late 2016. And by the time that you can get out there, go find the property and the location, whatever the bedroom count, the market's already going up. Then we have these things called multiple offers. And then people have to revert back to just buying property to get in. So when I'm counseling clients, you know, here's an opportunity that you may not be in multiple offers. You may be able to move up into a neighborhood that you want and pick a spot that you have. And if you're going to be there more than 5 years, this little downturn is going to be nothing but a distant memory. And I'm not sure if that's making sense, but don't focus in, make them help not focus in on price, but what they want. It's not an investment property. It's not a flip. It's not something that you have to calculate a year or two down the road and come out, you know, with a profit.
Right. Right. I love that. I love that perspective. Thank you so much. Saundra, what are you recognizing right now about, and how are you helping your buyers to overcome buyer reluctance?
Well, I can say, lucky for me, I've sold 3 houses in this quarantine.
Awesome. Congratulations.
So,
Congratulations.
thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, you just never know in this crazy real estate world we're in, right? Like what's happening today is not happening tomorrow. I think I follow a lot of what Tom is saying. I would agree. I think first and foremost, you really need to know your audience on, and this time I can say I had one investor, one looking for his first, home after being divorced, and another first-time home buyer. So depending on who you're speaking to, everybody is coming, you know, to this situation with a different need. You know, I had a gentleman who bought probably 4 or 5 houses from me, an investor, and it was just about the numbers. Are we getting a good deal? We went in, saw the place, wrote an offer 2 days later, and we closed yesterday. So, you know, it really just kind of depends. So I'd say for most people right now, really know your audience for sure, understand what their needs are. And on the earlier call about, you know, our top producer, he spoke about, you know, you need to ask the question and then you need to just be quiet, you know, let them speak to what's happening. Too often we have this anxiety. We need to jump in and ask and answer our own questions, when in fact, if we had just asked the questions, they would be feeding us, you know, more information than we need. But I do believe that, you know, I too have seen, I've been in the business since the late 80s. So I've been in multiple markets, and we all think it's going to be the end of the world, and we're never going to, I mean, there's plenty of times I'm like, am I ever going to sell another house? I mean, you know, we all go through some of these same anxieties. But, you know, really just kind of have to stay the course. And I think one of our major jobs in real estate is teaching people to walk through the fear. Everyone's afraid, oh, I'm going to buy at the top of the market, or, you know, I'm the fool. What have I done? This is scary. But no, really taking it one step at a time, walk them through the process. And for us, it's something we do all the time. But, you know, for a first-time buyer, they have no idea, right? So.
Right. That's great. It sounds like you really do the consultation so that you understand what their motivation is.
Exactly. Yeah. Because everyone's different, right? I mean, we have 3 different. But in today's market, yes, with people looking, particularly if they're going to reside in that home for 3 to 5 years, which we know, at least for first-time buyers, is the norm. It's all relative, you know, so if the market goes a little bit down, their next purchase is going to be, you know, reflecting the same thing.
That's great. Thank you, Saundra. Terese, What's your perspective on the market and how you help your clients?
We'll just keep building on what everyone else has said. My motto has always been have that rock solid buyer consultation, figuring out what their wants and needs are. Those are very different. Their wants are very different than their needs. In this market, I think we need to focus more on their needs than their wants. Make a list of all those things, keep reminding them, come back to that list. Remember what you told me. You mentioned this to me. I remember we were speaking about this, and keep bringing them back. Another thing that I try to focus on with them is, we don't know, we're uncertain, we don't know what's going to happen. And I'll go through what we do know. So let's talk about the things that we do know. We talk about their list. We know you want this. We know you need this. These are the schools you want. This is the bed bath size you want. It's got the backyard. It's got everything that you've asked me to find for you. What about the market? Let me tell you what we do know. The last 5 recessions have done X. Know your data. What we do know that the interest rates are low, if they are, and know what those are. Explain to them what that means, having the interest rates low. Talk to them about their down payment. Okay, if you don't need your the stock market, well, do you need your down payment out of the stock market? No, I don't. We liquidated that 3 months ago. Great, this is an amazing opportunity for you. So talk about the things that you know to instill confidence in them, because if they're going to start spinning out on something else, and just keep bringing them back to the things that we know and the things that they've told you. And it makes it more about them. Make it about them. It's not about us in this. This is what you've told me. This is what I know. This is how we're going to do it. And so that's what I focus on with them, what I know, what the past has done, and what they've told me. So that's what I do. And really focus on that buyer consultation, because that's when you're going to get to know. Start from, remember we had the thing with Aaron Kaufman, you start in the center and work yourself out. Start in that center, focus on what they want, and then work your way out and show them how you're going to help them.
I love that. So when you go back to them and you remind them, this is what you said that you wanted. Remember, we talked about this. Do you see a shift in them when you remind them of what it was? Like, did they get so caught up in competition and forgetting everything else and worrying about money that when you bring them back to their why, right? Like, what do you notice with them?
Oh, a complete shift in their demeanor, because I think they've lost sight of it, because they've talked to their cousins, uncles, brothers, sisters, best friends, dog groomer that told them that it's not a good time to buy. So it just brings them back to, well, that's great, but this is what we want, and this is what we know right now. So who cares about what they're saying? We're the ones, you hired us to educate you, to make you feel comfortable, to stroke you when we need to have the hard conversation when we need to as well. So that's great. Use them as a guide, like we say for our people at Zillow. Use it as a guide. Use it as a guide, but then come to us. If something sounds fishy, come to us, come to me, and I'll tell you. So yeah, you definitely see a difference in them once you keep coming back to, great, but this is what you said you wanted. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Suzanna, will you share with us how you help your buyers to overcome reluctance?
Yes, of course. So first of all, I really look at, I don't want to waste my time. So I've done that, I've been in this business for going on 5 years. And early on, I did waste my time a lot on buyers that were always trying to time the market, right? So I think one of the most important things is what Saundra said, is to identify who you're working with. So identify your buyer. Are they an investor buyer timing the market, or are they a buyer who is looking for home ownership, whether it's trading up or actually buying their first home? I think also right now, we're in very interesting times. So there's a lot of fear instilled in buyers. There's a lot of uncertainty. And I think building confidence and bringing clarity is huge. So the way I work with my buyers is I educate them. So with data that is current and historical data as well. And you want to bring that clarity. You also want to remind them, which I do often, is why they're buying. So exactly what Terese said. So a lot of that also, I'm really big on numbers. It's like, be the local expert. be that local economist. So I'm huge on bringing graphs and data to my buyers and showing them why right now, during this shift, there's a safe zone, there's this opportunity to buy, and you're never going to buy at the peak. I mean, you're never going to sell at the peak or buy at the bottom of the market, right? It's so fluid, you can never time it. And it's just, there's so much opportunity right now, and you kind of have to instill that sense of urgency. And I do it very authentically, where I make it about them. It's not about me, it's about them and why they're looking to buy. So I really just believe that coming down to that readiness, like why you have to look for a buyer that's able, ready and willing. And the readiness is shift proof, right? So everybody has a reason why they want or need to buy. It's that willingness and instilling that sense of urgency and giving them, and making sure that they know that there's opportunity out there.
So it sounds like a lot of education and walking them through it. And that's really wonderful. Thank you. So Tom, you have, you've been through the markets before, and do you use that information, when you're speaking to your buyers now? And then what is it that you do to help them create that urgency?
Well, I'll kind of add on a little bit what Terese and Suzanne were saying. There's different buyers, right? So one example, put it in real terms, that I use down in Almaden, people are freaking out, right? Should I buy, should I not? So what I did is I went back, there's 23 houses on the market. There's 18 houses in escrow. Of those 18 houses are in escrow, there's 14 that went under contract from March 15th forward. So when people start hearing numbers like that, like Suzanne was talking about, it can create, well, it's not a sense of urgency. It takes the fear away. I mean, if you don't have any sense of urgency in a buyer, sense of urgency happens in buyers when the market's multiple offers. You can put sense of urgency into a buyer right away in a multiple offers scenario, because if they don't get in the market, they're going to be out of this market. Getting buyers comfortable to make a decision in a down market, I think, is more important. And the fear of buying, like Terese was saying, that they are out talking to their friends, their mom and dad who have bought 2 houses their entire life. They put fear into them. And if you show them what reality is, that, hey, 18 out of the 23 houses available, 18 are in escrow. I just did Santa Cruz. I have a guy looking for a property over there, and I just ran the numbers for him, and his words were, oh wow, let's go take a look at the house on Thursday. Right now I got a different guy in Palo Alto that, he's a different kind of person, and he has a strategy in his head, and you're not going to tell him what he wants to do. But what I was doing this morning is doing the numbers again. Anything I say, I back it up with statistics, either numbers, graphs, what have you. The numbers don't lie. So when I sent him up there, and the 2 houses in the neighborhood that he's looking at in Crescent Park, there's only 3 houses available that are close to his price point. 2 just went under contract, got a hold of the agents. Both were all cash. One was a 6-day close. One's going to be a 7-day close. So I just sent that information over to him. So is it creating a sense of urgency in him? Yeah, but it also is showing that this market isn't quite as bad as what he's thinking of it. And if he wants to make a decision to move forward, I'm giving him the information to show him that it's okay to move forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds good. It sounds like, the underlying tactic is to really educate your clients, right?
Yeah, if you educate them and show them that the market is not as bad as what the media is talking about, they move forward. In 2008, that was a very difficult thing to do, right? Even if they wanted to move forward, they couldn't. This market's not the same, guys. In this market, I think people like Andy Sweat that are heavy buyer things, they're going to kill it, because the buyers, as soon as they feel good, they're going to start buying again. And there's going to be a lot of lag time. There's going to be a 6-month lag time that this market's probably going to be kind of waffling a little bit. And it's a great opportunity for buyers to get in and buy their houses in the places they want, or the floor plans they want, or the size they want. If they wait too long, they'll miss it, and it'll be multiple offers again. I've watched it for 20 years.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tom. So Saundra, you you know, you've got 3 clients in contract right now. And so, you know, what was it that helped you to create that sense of urgency? I know that one of them was, you know, someone going through a divorce. So that urgency right there. But what did you do with the other 2? And the other buyers that you're working with too?
Yeah, I think most of it is just really staying present with them, staying in touch. You know, my one client that's an investor, I mean, I just, on occasion, I'll shoot them, you know, a property and say, hey, any thoughts on this? It's just very simple, send them a listing, kind of keep the conversation going. So I think mostly staying present with them. The other buyer was really interesting because she's a pediatrician. She works for PAMP in Los Gatos. She's like, you know, I was thinking about maybe buying a house, but with this downtime, I'm online all the time. Right? So she's got time to kind of poke around, and, you know, we went out and was able to just, you know, show her, I think, total of like 6 houses, and she picked one. So, I want to reiterate what Tom said, and I think so. Those agents that have been around a long time, when you look back on these markets, you think, oh, wow, if I only would have, right? Like jumped in. And really, I think instead of all of us being so stressed out and negative about what's happening, we should be turning this more into, this is an opportunity. Every time something happens, and the best thing that can happen is the agents that really aren't full-time, that don't need to work, when market gets tough, we start to see things thin out, and it really makes our business better. So I think there is opportunities, and I couldn't agree more that this is the time to be looking at those. And there's always a new way. There's always a new angle. There's always a new opportunity. And that's really, we should focus on that now, rather than we're all so stressed because we don't get to see our friends and, you know, go out and that type of thing. So
Right.
Anyway, I think mostly just direct communication, staying present, not, you know, let him know it's going to be okay. Really.
That's great. Thank you. Terese, when you're doing your lead generation right now, you know, how are you approaching that? And how are you working with your current buyers that might be a little bit on the fence? What is your style? What is it that you do?
Well, those are 2 questions. The current buyers that I'm working with right now, I mean, we all have parts in our game that we wish we were better at, or, you know, that I'm using it it's a huge word that we're going to probably use about 100 times today. I'm using it as an opportunity to focus on, you've heard people say, oh, blame the market. Oh, the market is telling me this. The market is telling me that. Well, now with all these new guidelines that we have sort of blaming a lot of stuff on what's going on we have these new forms, we have these new procedures, we have to do all these things. It's creating a different urgency and a different, like, for me to know who is really a serious buyer. If I'm getting someone to send me over their pre-approval, I'm getting somebody to fill out the property entry advisory declaration. I'm getting them to look through all the disclosures. I'm getting them to look through all the virtual tour. We're talking about the house. We go to see it. How much more motivation is there? I mean, how much more? That is like, but I'm saying moving forward, use that data and use that approach to, I don't know why it's always so much easier to clean someone else's house or do something where you're blaming it on something else, blaming it on everything else. Like, hey, they've already done all this. Moving forward, don't be afraid to ask people these questions. Like, you know what, there's no reason for us to go see this house if you haven't already looked at the tour, if you haven't already looked at this, if you haven't, you know, I noticed that there were 4 things that I found in the inspection. Did you notice those? I did not. Well, we should probably look at those before and see if it's a deal breaker. Really, it's going to give us an opportunity to focus in on more of our skill to be able to ask these deep-rooted questions and find out more of their motivation. I've had buyers that are all of a sudden like, yeah, I already filled it out. When can we go see it? Like, they're ready. They're super ready to go see it. Use it also as a way to say, you know what, if those things that I talked about in the last segment, if you don't need anything out of the stock market, you've got your down payment, why would you not want to go up against nobody else? Why don't we just write an offer for what you think the property is worth based on the information I've given you, based on the market analysis? Why wouldn't we just write our own out? Why would you want to have to deal with multiple offers? You already told me 3 weeks ago you didn't want to get in a bidding war. So here's your chance to not be in a bidding war. So again, go back to the things that they've told you. Remember when you said you didn't want a bidding war? Now's our chance to not have to do a bidding war. Let's go look at that property and let's get you into contract. So those, I'm using the things. Listen, I'm a good listener. I'm a good listener, and I'm a good note taker. I've been taking notes this whole conversation. So I just try to remember the kids' names. Remember everything about everything that they've told you. Remember when you said Leo really liked the sandbox? Well, look, this already has a sandbox for you. I mean, just things like that. Just try to remember, focuses more back on their motivation, and you get them in the house that they say they want.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. It really does, it really does make it all about them, right? And that must make them feel so well taken care of. You've been showing property, and I know Saundra has too. And I don't know about Suzanna and Tom, but for you showing property, how do you handle this whole shelter in place and the COVID-19? Like, how do you approach your clients on that?
Talking to me?
Yes. Yes. To you, Terese. I'm sorry. I'm looking at you on my screen. Yeah.
You're like,
you're talking to me?
I know.
Anyway, so how I do it, I mean, gosh, how happy was I that I got to leave the house and go show property first of all. It was like Christmas come early. The same thing. We went through all the reports. As I don't usually go through every report to every house that I go see, and now I am. And so we have a whole other conversation. Now we're actually in the house and we're looking at everything. Remember we saw this, those are the wires we talked about in the garage. That's no big deal. This is this. Bringing them back. It's again, another opportunity to show what your value is. We're not going to be looking at every single report. You're not going to send them 10 houses and look at every single report of all the 10 houses. You're going to say, which one do you want to go see? You've looked at everything, you've seen everything, and now we'll go point out what really is a big deal. So I think it's in the long run, it's going to be better for us. Be authentic, be, helpful, and all the things that they hired you for, be authentic, and just help them through the process. I loved it. I'm super happy to do it.
That's awesome.
You guys want to leave already? You sure you don't want to see anything else?
I love it. That's so good. Thank you. So Suzanna, I know that you're really, into the numbers and into the stats, and, how is that helping your clients? Like, what are you recognizing with them when you provide that information?
So one of the things that I do, I found this really great graph that, I'm sure realtors have seen it because every realtor from every brokerage is using it. And it's market cycles, San Francisco Bay Area market cycles, and how certain events have impacted the market. And over time, how those markets come back. I mean, they're just two awesome graphs. So I'm using that for my buyers. But I think I just want to comment on what Terese said. One of the things that I value most is authenticity. So I think if you come, and you come with that, like really that human connection, right? One of the things that I found, if you give your buyers too many options, they'll never make a decision. So bring value to a conversation, listen to them, know the details, the very small details are key, and really listen to what they're looking for and what they're saying. So when I present buyers with property, I make sure that they're a very good fit and that they have those details that those buyers have told me that they're looking for. And so rather than giving them, 20 properties to choose from, I'll give them 6. And then I'll say, from these 6, which ones do you really like and which ones do you want to go see? And so that's kind of how I handle that. It's always just being true to yourself and true to them, and never make it seem like you're doing this for you. Again, I just want to come back to that, the reasons why we're doing this is to help people, and always come from that place. I think they see that, 95% of my business is from open house buyers that I pick up. That's 95% of my business. Now I'm starting to see referrals from that home buyer from that open house database. But one of the things that this morning I got a text, and the other thing that I wanted to mention is I show them testimonials of buyers that were hesitant. Some of the buyers that I closed on even late last year up until December, they never even thought they could. They never imagined themselves. They've rented for 15 years. They've never imagined themselves owning a home. They never thought they could qualify. And I set them up with my lender. They went through the whole scenario, and it turned out they can do this much. And we found a home, and they're in there. And I got a text this morning from one of my buyers that was super hesitant. And he said, Suzanna, thank you so much. We are loving our home. We just remodeled the kitchen because they had the funds to be able to do that. And they said, we never imagined ourselves like so happy. And I think those testimonials and allowing other buyers to see those kinds of testimonials and those successes are key. And that's how I present. Yeah.
That's so wonderful. Teresa is asking you, what were the graphs that you referenced?
Oh yeah, I can share my screen. And I actually wanted to validate these graphs with those that have been in the business more than 30 years, and also with Mark Von Canel, just to make sure. But I found him compasses using every realtor from all over the nation really is using it. So may I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Share. Okay. Here they are. So they come from CoreLogic, their Case-Shiller Index. So a lot of these numbers are their San Francisco Bay Area recent real estate market cycles from 1984 to the present. And it basically shows an event. So it shows the earthquake, it shows the dot-com boom, 9/11, the subprime bubble. And it shows how the market has adjusted in different areas. So 11%, 10%, you know, dot-com after pop after 9/11. It shows the subprime bubble. That one actually hit the market the worst at -27, but they've all adjusted between 8 to 10%. And then if you go up here, even in the high tech boom, you know, every time there's an adjustment, there's always appreciation over time. The next one, and it kind of goes through a summary of everything. I mean, my clients love this. The San Francisco Bay Area market cycles, it actually shows the impact in more of this type of graph here. The cycle and the appreciation. So basically how it goes up and down, and the total appreciation from the peak of the cycle. I mean, I love these graphs. If you go online, every realtor puts their logo right here in this little blank space and is using them. So, or I don't want to say every realtor, but lots of realtors are using them. So yeah. I wanted to validate them with, you know, some of the people that have been in the business more before I actually shared, but I was planning on sharing with the office. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. If you could, so Kristen asked if you could share that. So if you want to put a link either in the chat or, you know, share it on the Facebook page, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I actually had to delete the logo, so I actually you know, deleted them, and then yeah, I'll share what I have.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So does anybody at this point have any questions or want to say something? I know that Jim Meach, you had made a comment about, you know, peaks and valleys can only be seen from hindsight, which is so true. And real estate is proven long-term leverage investment, and now's a great time to buy or sell. Anybody else have anything that they want to say?
Edith, I was just going to say that I think this is actually a really great time to weed out what I would consider a lot of tire kicker buyers. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of people that want to use your time, take you out, blah, blah, blah. Now they have to actually show up, show their proof of funds, sign, you know, the PEAD, do a little upfront diligence. So that kind of helps us as far as, you know, our time management, really. Because, you know, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I feel like for me, I'm always sifting through who's really like my next deal to pop. I mean, right? So my buyer, I'm always reshifting. Who's the most motivated? Who is going to actually be willing to pull the trigger and get something done? So I think while we have this in place, we should again, try and positive look on that spin. Like, these people are going to take the time, do their diligence too. By the time we meet, we feel like, oh, everybody's already got some commitment, some skin in the game. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I ask my buyers to rate a home also on a scale of 1 to 10. And before I say, I'm gonna have you rate this home. And I tell them that before in my buyer consultation. And then when we get in the home and we walk outside and I say, how would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10? I've already coached them and said, anything a 7 or above, we're gonna write an offer on. So it really makes them think about if it's a 7 or above, we're going to write an offer on it. That means that want and need list has gotten really small. We've checked off a lot of boxes. And it really, the 6, we just rip it up and we, get in the car. Now, granted, this was pre-COVID, but it still works on, you're just seeing less property. So you walk out of that 1 or 2 houses that you've looked at and is this a 1, on a 1 to 10, what is this?
I love that, Terese, because
keep looking then, and that's it. And then there's no like, well, let me know, let's think about it. Like, well, we just keep looking and then you're done with that one. So it saves time for you as the agent too.
Yeah, and I love it, right? Because you bring them right back to the purpose of what they're doing, right? It's like, it's not just to go and see all the homes that are available. It's like, what about this home? Do you want to write an offer on it? Right? So I love that. I love that.
This is about finding their motivation. And so that's what I do. Well, let's not waste any more time looking at this house anymore.
So part of the information gathering is, the CMA, what's going on in the market and how the prices are being affected. So Tom, you've been in the business for so long. When you call, what do you do to find the current prices, and how do you come to that so you could talk to your buyers about it?
That a little bit there. Can you re-ask the question?
So basically, when you're providing information for your clients, right, for your buyers, part of that is the market activity, right? And so what do you do to get the most accurate market activity for your buyers so that they're making an informed decision?
Well, different buyers are looking for different kind of, market data. Some people want to see data that goes back several years. So again, I'll just use the buyers. I'm working with 4 or 5 buyers right now. A guy in Palo Alto, he wants to know historical data. So kind of like what Suzanna was doing, not to that extent, but I'm going back to 2018. I'm doing price per square foot. I'm showing them where the appreciation hit, where it flattened off, and I'm showing pickups in the marketplace, and we talk about those things. Other people are motivated, like I said, they're trying to buy at the bottom of the market. I turn around and I use how many houses are in escrow and motivate people that way. So most of the time when I'm using data, I'm using price per square foot. When do we see the most amount of appreciation? So if I'm heading out and they've heard a story, the best time to buy a house is in January or February, whatever it is, I'll go back into those segments in time and show them multiple offers are happening during these times. This is the time that you want to go. When buyers say, hey, I don't want to buy a house in October, November, December, I'll show them that you don't want to wait until January, February, or March when the market typically heats up. And I'll use the graphs like the rest of the girls are talking about and show you that in this time frame, this is when the most appreciation happens between January and April. And the reason for that is because the buyers all have the same attitude that you're having, and they're entering the market. And I can also show them graphically and statistically that buying houses between September and December, typically it's on a downsized market. So depending on whatever buyer they're looking for, you got to ask, like Terese does, you got to ask questions. You got to understand how they're doing. One of my guys is a CPA. He wants something different. One guy hit it pretty good in the stock market. He wants to buy a beach house. So he's in a different motivation. Another guy's flying out from New York and he needs a house for 5 years here, and he's worried about commute, and he's worried about those things. So each buyer is looking for something different. And if you actually go in and ask the questions like all 3 ladies have been saying, you'll find out their motivation. And then in continuing to ask questions, you'll find why buyers aren't moving forward, and they may not be a buyer. Like they were saying, I think Teresa's idea of a 1 to 10 is a great way to ask them, are you going to buy this house or not? Because that's understood what Teresa just did there, right? It wasn't rate the house. Teresa's really asking, is this a house you're willing to make an offer on? Instead of asking that question, she puts it in a numeric, is this a 1 through 10 house? And so understanding your buyer, asking the questions, figuring out who wants to make the deal, figure out why they're not moving forward is the number one way to get a buyer into contract. And that buyer will make it clear to you what they're looking for. And it's not real hard information to find. It's numbers. And you can find it on the MLS or graphically or what have you.
Thank you. Kristen has a question. Kristen?
Thank you. So going back to Saundra's point about the tire kickers, I'm just I feel like there is a fine line right now. In particular, I've been working with someone for several months. You know, he's a 30-something, has a good job, but does currently still live at home with his parents in Los Gatos. And so he's comfortable, right? And so he was ready to pull the trigger, and then the SIP happened. And so now he's very hesitant, even though he will admittedly say he still has a job and he now has, you know, a lot of cash on hand. But now he's worried, well, we're only a month or two into this, what's going to happen? And he's worried about his job long term and if he loses his job. So I guess I just sometimes don't know. I want to be empathetic to that because I think we all can understand his concern and how much to kind of, I don't, you know, push or just kind of let it be.
Is that for somebody?
Who wants to take that one?
Anyone who wants to tell me.
I wasn't sure.
Who or any of all of you, whichever one.
I would go back to what's motivating him. Doesn't seem to be motivated. Maybe talk to the parents about selling their house.
Exactly.
Not somebody like homelessness.
He's too comfortable. He's too comfortable.
Yeah, I'm half joking, but I'm half serious. I would ask that question, you know, Tyler, whatever your name is. What happens if your parents decide they want to move? I mean, you really don't want to be behind the 8 ball. Get in front of this train. Your opportunity is now. You don't know what your parents' situation is going to be. I realize that you're comfortable here, but let's get out there and let's find you something while the opportunity is there, strike while the iron's hot. I mean, you don't know, his situation could change on it. Look how quickly this COVID crap happened. I mean, it can change like that. I mean, that he could be homeless in a month. I mean, really, he just doesn't know. I mean, why not get him something that he wants that he can see himself living in? And I mean, that's got to be better than living with his parents.
You would think.
His parents
my daughter's on this call. She can relate. She doesn't live with me.
His parents might be cool.
Well, they probably are too cool. That's why he's there.
Yeah, right. Price is right. I think someone brought up a really good point. I was watching, with all of our time on the hands, you know, you get invited to these masterminds and whatnot. But someone brought up a really good point between the difference between being a renter and a homeowner. Exactly. If you do lose your job, it takes a lot longer to get you out of a home that you own versus something that you rent. And I mean, I would ask him the financial questions, you know, about most people buy a house for tax reasons, for some tax breaks. So why give your money? Why flush your money? Eventually your parents, yes, absolutely are going to want to move on. And
to your point, Saundra, we don't know how long we're going to get these tax breaks. I mean, a new administration comes in and we don't get these tax breaks anymore. The rest of the country doesn't care about the tax breaks that we're getting. It's only the places that have, you know, high taxes that we get the write-offs and high, you know, so we don't know how long this is going to last. So that's another good thing to tell them too. You get the write-off while you can.
Right. Good point.
Yeah. And just more certainty as far as where you're going. And I think for someone like that, be like, listen, you're in your 30s, time to set a goal and let's do this, you know, everyone can sit and wait. Instead of getting out there, and I would really make the appointment and get him out there.
If you could try asking him what he's waiting for, he could be a guy that he may be a buyer that you're no one. He could be sitting in mama's lap for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Not that you don't
Right.
want, meaning that you don't put a high focus on them because you're missing other opportunities. But I think you're going to have to ask him, how long do you see yourself living with your parents?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if he says, well, I'm kind of comfortable with it and mom and dad pay for my gas, you got a problem. And
Yeah, that's
Good
what,
point.
Yeah,
Good
looking
point.
at the lifestyle, right? Like the lifestyle that he's currently in versus the lifestyle that he's trying to create.
yeah. And again, that asking the questions and what's holding them back, those are hard ones to ask sometimes, but ask them.
yeah,
You know, where do you see yourself? When do you see yourself buying a house? And
that's,
then listen.
oh, sorry, Tom.
Mhm.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Ask the right questions, because then you have to determine whether you're wasting your time or not. You know, that's huge.
Sure.
Mhm.
Thank you,
That way,
everyone.
that way you stay in control.
Mhm. That was a good question, Kristen. Thank you. Anybody else have a question or want to chime in? All right. Okay. So what is it that we haven't talked about that we should probably make sure everybody here on this call understands?
Let's chime in. I think, guys, in the downsized markets over the years I've been doing this, most of the time I've made more money in the downsized markets than I do when the multiple offers are going on, especially if you're buyer's agents, guys. I mean, remember how many offers you have to write to get a deal done, or if you don't have that perfect all cash buyer. Right now is a great time to go out and actually be a buyer's agent and get them into contract. Buyers, there's someone was just mentioning, I sold a nurse a house a couple of weeks ago, right in the middle of health, right? And she's going through it. And she's in the intensive care at Kaiser. And her text to Terese and I was, thank you so much, guys. This is the best day ever. I closed on my house.
Aw.
So buyers will absolutely want to move in there. Right now is a great opportunity for your agents that have been struggling, that have been getting your ass kicked, trying to get offers together. All of us go through the same thing. You can get deals done now. Sellers will be easy. They'll be easier to sell houses with sellers in this market too, because the houses that are not ready to go, they're going to have to lower their prices. And this COVID virus will help you say, hey, we got to get ahead of this curve because the market's potentially going down, and either you're going to chase it or we're going to get the house sold. And it works with selling a house and buying. Let's get the house sold at the highest point we are. If we believe the market is cooling, let's get your house sold and let's go buy a house, and we'll benefit on both sides of this. So you guys look at this as an opportunity to grow your business, especially if you're doing buyers. This whole thing's about buyers. You absolutely can make more money. You can get more people into contract. It's going to be tough, like Terese was saying. It's a tougher market to get out there, but I'm pretty impressed. She's figuring out exactly how to maneuver through this pretty quick and not waste her time, and figure that out, and make a lot more money, guys.
Yeah.
Great words of wisdom. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that too, that this is the opportunity. There's less competition. And interesting enough, one of my business partners, she works for Compass. Compass has told all their agents, you are not allowed to show anything, nothing vacant, nothing occupied, period. So those agents are pretty much just out. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, to be honest with you. So the fact of the matter is, if Compass can't show, hey, let's, we should be getting in there and making it happen. And interesting enough, so this little condo I sold yesterday, right before the COVID, the seller had gotten an offer for $720, and they were like, oh, what? Pretty good. Maybe I can hold out for more. We're in contract for $650. So
Wow.
you take advantage of the fact, like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you right now, there's a whole lot less people going in the door, and so it's an opportunity. So we, if we're not taking advantage, we're going to look back on this. Tom and I being, should we call ourselves elders? I don't know.
No, I'm old. Not
Experience.
elder. I'm old.
Old. Okay. I'm old. So for those of us that have seen this a time or two, trust me, this is the time. And literally sometimes it's even just like with your children, they just need a little nudge. They just need to know, hey, it's okay. Let's go, guys. Like Terese says, I love that. It's a 6. We're ripping up the listing. No.
Mhm.
We're done.
Yeah.
I'd give them 1
Off
to
the table.
5. 1 to 10.
Hey guys, and again, just remember, this business is tough, but it is one of the only businesses that in 1 month you can make more than most of your friends make in a year.
Yeah.
So if you get out there and you're focused, you're going to go through some hard times. Keep going on it, and all of a sudden in 1 month you can make 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000. And that's something that's unique about this business, and take advantage of it. Right now, there's a lot of agents that are going to run away, and they're going to sit at home, and they're going to, pout. Right now, go out there, educate yourself. Like Suzanna was saying, be somebody that when someone asks you the question, how's the market doing over in Willow Glen? You can say, how many houses are in the market? How many houses went in escrow? And then you should see the responses I'm getting by, I go, hey, since November 1st, there was 18 houses that went into contract. People look at you and go, no shit.
Yeah.
Right? So understand what's going on, because what they're thinking is nothing is happening. Just be able to regurgitate this stuff, because someone's going to casually look at you. We stopped and had a social 3 buddies party, and they looked at me and go, dude, what's going on in the market? And when I threw out some stats, they all went, holy crap, man, that's amazing. And the next thing I said, hey, anybody have anything up in Menlo Park? They're thinking, these guys are all from Menlo. I said, if you guys know anybody thinking about selling, one guy goes, hey, we need to get a hold of such and such, because I know they're thinking about selling. So just by having my numbers and then throwing out, now that's not a buyer, that may become a listing, but just regurgitating stats that are accurate may have gotten me a listing presentation.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Tom, right? And then you also spoke to the motivation that we as agents, why we're in real estate is really because we can make that amount of money based on what it is that we put into our business, what we put into, helping our clients, learning our skills, having our experience. It's like a lot of times people forget that the reason that they chose real estate was because they could make a lot of money in a short amount of time. And that amount of money will allow us to live the lifestyle that we really want to create. So thanks for touching on that.
And
Susanna, you wanted to say
everybody this. Oh, sorry, Susanna, go ahead.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
So no, I just wanted to comment on what Tom said. Right now, I feel like this market is very need-based. So sellers are going to be more reasonable when, if you want, there's so much opportunity. And I believe right now that sellers, because a lot of these sellers that are selling right now need to sell, they're going to be easier to work with and more reasonable. And you're going to be able to get that deal done. One of the biggest things right now is to nurture those relationships. So nurturing your client relationships is huge. Again, everyone wants to know what's going on in the market right now. And one of the things that I do is go to your meetings, go to your broker tour meetings. Dave Walsh does some incredible stats, both for SCORE and then Silvar. Send emails out to your clients with the numbers, your stats, and they love that kind of stuff. And then they trust you when you do that. They know your stuff, and so I think that's super, super important.
That's awesome. Thank you, Terese. You have a quick minute. You wanted to say something?
That's all I need. Just bring it back to dollars and cents too for your buyers. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. I mean, they talk about, I might lose money, that the market is trending down, but we know it's going to go back up. I mean, we have the graphs. And Susanna's just shared all those graphs. We have the graphs. And they know it too. They're just wanting you to reiterate it. I mean, if you vet it out and what they're paying in rent, like my next door neighbor pays about $50,000 a year to rent this house. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm sorry, you could buy something else and not pay that much. So who cares that the house might go down a little bit? It's going to come back up. I mean, you pay $1 would you rather pay $1 to a slumlord or $1 to yourself? I mean, you're only paying yourself back. Mm-hmm. You pay your mortgage, you're paying yourself. That's what you're doing. You're investing in yourself. So changing our language is pretty important right now. Just letting them know exactly what they're doing when they're buying a house. You're not renting anymore. That. You're buying something and you're paying yourself. It's dollars and cents. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So.
Absolutely. I love that. You guys have been such a wealth of knowledge. I so appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom and taking the time out of your busy schedule. And I know all of you have been super busy. So thank you, Tom Yore. Thank you, Saundra Leonard. Thank you, Terese Ferrara. And thank you, Suzanna Martinez. Thanks to everybody that joined us here today. Take these words of wisdom, go out, make your calls, work with your buyers, get them motivated, and you know, let's get some deals going. So everybody, thank you again, and have a beautiful day.
Thank you, everybody.
Edith.
Thank you.